Bobby this morning, definitely going with lunch because Bobby screwed up his morning. However, I want to rant on something. I want to rant on the worst method of training that you can possibly do in order to get stronger. The absolute worst. Right? Now, by now, a few of you are probably rolling through your heads going, oh, CrossFit, bodybuilding, we're trying to answer this question. And to be fair, I asked it rather poorly, but unfortunately, it is oftentimes the question most people answer for themselves. And it's got nothing to do with the methodology of training, type of training, or even the training pertaining to any given sport. It's usually the people that are in it. And for most people, you're going to be split into two groups. You're going to be split into, or excuse me, not two groups, actually going to be four groups nowadays. You've got bodybuilding, CrossFit, powerlifting, and then strongman. That's what we're looking at nowadays, right? Strongman's becoming more and more common. You're starting to see it. But unfortunately, you see people tend to blend directly into one or the other in terms of the norm. You know, not your top 10. Your top 10 in any sport, they're pulling from a multitude of fitness strategies and areas of expertise. However, most people at the amateur level in sports are going to shy away from most other, or at least one or two other methods of fitness. In this terms, we're looking at bodybuilding, CrossFit, strongman, and powerlifting because of not a methodology or principle issue, but because of a human issue. Most people, if they tell you like, oh, strongman's dangerous, and it's going to be because they saw a really big guy doing something really heavy with something they have no business in doing, get hurt. Like, if my introduction to strongman was, no shade at Jeff Carone, was Jeff Carone falling out from under that log at the Arnold years ago, then I probably wouldn't want to do a log press either. Like, I completely understand. However, again, you saw something happen to a single individual, right? Now, Jeff's a great guy. Love Jeff Carone. He's great for the sport even to this day. Hopefully his health stuff is bouncing back. But then we look over into CrossFit. And most people, when you ask them about CrossFit, they start telling you about their personal experiences they had with a individual or a group of individuals at a local box or a local CrossFit gym, right? Okay, cool. So now we have a methodology that's been exiled completely, right, based on the individuals involved, which is really kind of crappy because CrossFit has been around for decades. Somebody just got smart, slapped a name on it, and unfortunately introduced too much ego into it, both in the boxes and at the corporate level, and now you have the mess that is CrossFit. But the methodology behind CrossFit has actually, again, been being used for decades. We can even see it in like Globo Gym fitness classes. But now somebody slapped a name on it, made it a sport, gave people places to progress to, so you could have individuals who didn't want to progress that still come and go, and individuals who want to progress and they have somewhere to go, right? But unfortunately, most people look beyond the really cool thing that CrossFit's done, and it helps people get to a state of being able to not squat and then have to take 48 hours off before they do anything with their legs, right? They're keeping people, for the most part, from sitting down in between, not workouts, because I hope those guys are sitting down in between workouts, but they're keeping people from sitting down for prolonged periods of time through the entirety of classes unless something's wrong. Like, I'm all about that. That's one of the reasons I like strongman. And same thing in CrossFit. If they've got to do a pull-up, they got to get to the bar. If they've got to press something, they most likely have to clean it or somehow get it from the ground to a pressable position. Strongman. It's strongman, just different sport-specific movements, and in some ways a little bit safer, and in some ways a little bit more dangerous, right? So, I guess the worst style of conditioning of conditioning out there, if you're not doing it, is CrossFit. But if you actually take some time, look at the methodologies, and get to talk to some people, like I've been lucky enough to bump shoulders with the top 10 in the world in terms of CrossFit, and these guys are completely different than the grand general population that consumes CrossFit. So you don't have a problem with CrossFit. You've been doing CrossFit, most likely, and didn't even know it. You have a problem with the people who are doing CrossFit, most likely. So let's go ahead and remember that. And now we look into bodybuilding. Oh, Jesus. Bodybuilding gets the worst rap of them all, man. It truly does. It's the perfect base. It is the perfect base. Anybody who wants to lift weights or do any kind of strength sport, I think, needs to spend a few years just bodybuilding, not dieting down, but just the very general principles of, hey, these are isolation exercises, these are compound exercises, these are how you structure. Well, while the gym strength is developing and your tendons are getting stronger, maybe you do want to take 48 hours off in between compound movements based on the lower body, right? It gives you an opportunity to really start to expose some of the positives and the negatives of your own genetics. So when you get into some of what I consider to be more dangerous activities, because when you have more compound movements, like a log press, or you're deadlifting everything, or you're having to clean something that you're going to press, your opportunity for injury drastically goes up. Bodybuilding is a little bit safer start, and it's a great place to develop muscular coordination and body awareness. So, it's also slapping on extra layers of lean muscle, and that's what bodybuilders do the best. They put on lean muscle mass. It's what they do. So if you're going to say, oh, well, I really don't do anything bodybuilding, well, you're wrong. You do. You just don't do anything sport specific. So when you're looking at those guys on stage or those dudes in the gym that are just a little bit more obsessed with the aesthetics of what they're doing versus the capability, just understand that those guys, chances are, if you get far enough up the food chain, they're a lot better at putting on muscle than most athletes. So at the end of the day, I really get tired of the bickering back and forth of like, oh, I'm a bodybuilder. Oh, I just do powerlifting. I'm like, you guys all do a little bit of what everyone does. We just all tend to lean one direction. I'll lean one direction further than any of the other. And guess what? If you only lean that one direction, you'll be a crappy CrossFitter. You'll be a terrible powerlifter. You'll never make it in strongman. And you're going to be a skinny bodybuilder. Like, I really generally don't understand why we pull so heavily away from all of these things that help each other. They do. And if you want me to go ahead and toss this out there, Dan Griggs, John Hack, obviously Dan Bell, he's a pretty dude. Not the prettiest of the bunch. You've got Dan Bell, you've got guys like Ray. Don't get me wrong. You can still not embrace all of these areas of fitness to an extreme like some guys have and still do very well in one sport-specific area. But I find it very difficult to believe that embracing all of these things to a proper frequency and intensity will not just make you better across the board. So, end rant, all done. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Kind of long, kind of bounced a little bit. It's also a little bit later in the day, so I'm a little bit more awake. But guys, I gotta get my rice done, and I've been stirring this ground chicken for like this entire video, and it's just now cooked. So, anyways, we're here, signing off. Go eat something, guys. You're getting skinny, and I will see you guys hopefully next week.